The number one difference is I bet you can't even think of anything more fun than this. Welcome to Life on the Moose. Welcome back if you've been here before. Speaking of welcoming, last week we had the time-lapse start to finish video about the spur cabin up there. So we have quite a few new viewers. Just want to say welcome. So if you could just kind of squeeze together on the couch and make room for our new viewers, I'd appreciate it. Thank you very much. So we're going to get to a few things today. Actually, it's a potpourri going on today. One thing we're going to do is talk about my new tool belt. Yes, I actually broke down and bought a tool belt. So I'll get into that in just a little bit. So speaking of that time-lapse video, I had one person comment that they bailed after my introduction because they thought my voice was AI. As I responded back, some of you may have seen, I never use AI on these videos. Nowhere on this channel do I use AI. Nowhere on this channel will I ever use AI, at least intentionally. I have mixed feelings on AI, like a lot of people. Is it necessary? I don't know about necessary, but I think it'll help certain things like medicine, some technologies, things like that. But when it comes to the creative world, I'm adamantly opposed to it. The way I look at creativity, it comes from up here, and that's it. If you have to rely on AI for your own voice or for your content or for your thumbnail or for your title, more power to you. Just know that I won't do it here. What you see on this channel is 100% me. If it sucks, then it's because I suck. If it's because it's great, then it's because I got lucky and something happened to be good. So just know that everything you see here is real. In fact, I don't even have a script. I don't write anything down. I don't write bullet points down. Do I edit things out? Yeah, when I say silly things or fumble my words or say things that aren't true and I go, oh yeah, wait, no, that's not right. Then I might edit it out. But AI? No, not going to do it. So as I mentioned, we got a potpourri of things that happened today. What I was hoping to do is finish the siding. As I mentioned a couple weeks ago, my regular supplier is out of this stuff. They're still out of this. So I'm going to take care of a lot of little things, like put these fascia boards on the end of my rafters on both ends. I still have a little partial wall to build here. Got some more flashing to put on, rafter hangers to nail on. So a lot of little things. So you won't get bored. So make sure you watch every minute of this video. Tool belt. Okay, let's talk about tool belt. Let me go get my tool belt. For those of you brand new who haven't heard the tool belt story, my other tool belt that I had was just a cheapy $60, something like that from the box store. No big deal. It lasted me 30 years. It actually lasted me 20 years, and I've been dealing with it for about the last 10. Here's my new belt. Okay, let me set this camera down and I'll show you what's going on. Thank you to the viewers that have specifically recommended this tool belt. I did take all your suggestions and I looked at several videos on YouTube. Not sure you knew this, but YouTube has a lot of videos where you can learn a lot of things about a lot of things. Okay, maybe not this channel, but there are other ones out there. Accidental leather. Accidental leather, look at that. This is, well, in the old days, they used to say the Cadillac of X is like one of the best of X. This is the Cadillac of tool belts, in my opinion. One of the best, that's for sure. I don't think anyone can argue it's probably the top 1 or 2 or 3 for sure contenders of the best tool belts you can buy. I believe it. This is thick. The leather is sturdy. It's stiff right now. It's going to take me a while to get used to it, but I'll get used to it. This isn't cheap. This thing costs more than the whole cow did that this leather used to be attached to. I don't know. It sure seems like it. As I mentioned, several things are different with this pouch. The number one difference is how you wear it. My other one was what's called a front load, where my tape measure and everything was right basically in the front half of my body. This one, big pouches hang off to the sides, hammer looping back, which is nice because when you're walking, the hammer doesn't bounce against your leg or your thigh. I know what you may be thinking. A gentleman your age, this belt is going to outlast you. Yeah, you're probably right. But because of the quality of this is truly nice enough where you could hand it down, at least in my opinion. Why would I spend that much money? Number one, I like quality. I'm not going to lie. Number two, I have a birthday coming up. Number three, which is most important, do you remember a guy named Harvey I used to talk about? Harvey made this tool belt possible. Again, thank you, Harvey. If you remember, oh gosh, it was probably 4 months ago, I'm guessing, maybe 5 months ago, when I was building the spur cabin. I bought a new nailer in part because of an older gentleman named Harvey. Harvey's a World War II vet. He's 101 years old. He loves the channel. And Harvey also, from time to time, donates a little bit of money to the channel because he doesn't want it to stop. So I really appreciate that. I can't say thank you enough. Harvey's the real reason I can afford this tool belt. Thank you again, Harvey. Harvey has a hard time reading, so people read the comments to him, even though he doesn't read the comments and he doesn't leave a comment, but he knows what people are saying. So if you want to do me a favor, just leave a comment and say, thanks, Harvey, for making Patrick's life easier. Or whatever you want to say to Harvey. You don't have to say anything to Harvey if you don't want to. Again, I can't say enough. Thank you, Harvey, for this tool belt. So now let's take this tool belt and get to work. Well, let's start by finishing the framing on these walls. This whole wall is going to be open except for 30 inches of wall space right here, just to hide, if you will, anything that's going to be along this wall. Most of my components are going to be along this wall, built-in cabinets. I have a couple ideas I'll share with you later. So yeah, top to bottom, 30 inches out, one wall there, and then I'll be done framing the wall. So let's get going on that. wanted to point something out, a tip, if you will. When you have a board like this that's angled on top, straight on the bottom, I find it a lot easier to cut the angle first. Because if you just cut this first, especially if you're cutting the bad end off of a board, for example, and then clip the tape on the long end, cut your length, as long as you measure from the long end, cut your length, and then that way you can use your square and your guide on the saw like you normally would. Because if the angled end is also your length and you're cutting that to length, you have to use a different guide on your saw. You have to move it over a couple of lines depending on what your angle is. So instead of playing with that, just cut the angle end first and then chop off the length you need square. Okay, so what do you want to do next? You want to put these clips on rafters? Let's see, we got some flashing to do. Let's put some clips on rafters and get this out of the way. I painted these clips to make them nice and fancy, but as it turns out, I think they're all going to be covered up, so it's not going to matter. That's what happens when you don't have any plans. Things change a little bit, but that's okay. All right, well, let me quickly go through and put these clips up. I got 1, 2, 3 more here, and I got all 6 to do up there. So, all right, let's get nailing. You know, you probably heard me say more than once that I'm not going to do something because it isn't required if I was to get a permit on it, for example. But that doesn't mean I'm necessarily not going to do it just because it is required. These clips are an example. That makes sense to me. This isn't permitted. No one's saying, hey, you have to do this. It just makes sense because we get high winds here, and a roof lifting up off its frame like this is probably a fairly common failure. The whole structure is going to fall over or the roof is going to fall off. Probably one of those two things. These clips really help prevent that. So I'm not opposed to it, even though it's not required per se. You know what is required is lunch. All right, I have enough venison burgers for 2 people. Which one of you would like the other one? Just leave a comment below and... No, wait a second, that won't work. I think that hamburger might get a little stale by the time it gets to you. So it's just me. Well, let's eat. All right, I just got off the phone with the lumberyard in a different town, about a half an hour farther away from the town that I normally get this stuff, and they have it. So tomorrow morning when I get up, I'm gonna make a trip, get a couple more pieces of that, and we'll put that siding on. So hopefully we'll side the whole thing, board and batten. I know it's board, plywood, batten, which will be my cedar fence boards. So hopefully we can finish it all up next episode when we get that stuff. But what we can do now is put this flashing on. So I'm gonna do that. Got 2 short pieces over there and 1 long piece over here. And after that, we'll put these fascia boards on the end of our rafters. And that'll be probably it. Short and sweet episode. What do you think? Let's cut some flashing. I got 2x4s. They're on site. They're right here. Oh, I have steel under there too for the roof. And OSB for the roof. Yeah, I'll get to that later. That'll be an episode or 2 down the road. So for now, fascia boards it is. I'm gonna start on one end and I'm gonna fasten that end down really well. And then I'm gonna work my way over. Because if I have one end free, then I'll be able to apply leverage on that one end and move it up and down as I need it. Gosh, isn't this fun? I bet you can't even think of anything more fun than this. I didn't think so. Well, I think I can say that the framing of this outdoor kitchen is officially finished. Fascia board is on. You probably noticed that I put a nail on this very last flown rafter. That's an extra hand. Just a way to hold one end of the board while I'm working on the first end. There you have it. It's all framed. Thank you for watching this episode of Life on the Moose. It means a lot to me. Every one of you. Seriously. I mean it. You know, I've said this before. If you weren't watching, I would be just some weird guy out in the middle of nowhere talking to his phone. It's a good thing I don't have neighbors that swing by. But just know that I do really appreciate it. Okay, come back next week. We're going to side this thing. Board and batten siding. It's going to resemble the top of that or that end of that right there. You can see that end is board and batten. That's what it's going to look like. So I'll bring some stain. I found some leftover battens. Check this out. Leftover battens from that cabin, so I don't even have to cut them. So make sure you stop by next week and we'll get all the siding wrapped up. It'll look good. All right, I think that's it. Anything else you wanted to add? Okay, all right. Well, if there is, just leave it in the comments. Take care of yourself. Stay out of trouble. I'll see you next week.